Woman mistakes. My parents as employees and stomps on mom's service dog's tail. So to start, what we were wearing. My mother was wearing a blue dress with short sleeves, trimmed with white flowers design, and beige khakis. Oh yeah, she also has a service dog too, vest and all. A brace dog for those who are curious. My father was wearing a grey button-up shirt and black pants. Finally, I was wearing blue jeans and a green shirt that read, "I'd make a Zelda pun, but I don't want to try and force it." Service dog, who I will shorten to Doggo, was wearing his service vest. When we entered the market of Walls, my mother and father went one way, and I went the other way. I was to get things like sunscreen and stuff while my parents got the food. We were bringing our own food since the food there is super expensive. As such, this part is second-hand from my parents, but I will embellish with the classic Karen tropes. They were in the frozen food aisle picking out some burgers and sausages for our grills. They at first heard the classical "excuse me" when choosing between mozza burgers and BBQ sauce burgers. They had just ignored it, but my mother felt Doggo tugging at the leash, trying to get her attention. Not something he was trained to do, just really smart. Mom turned around and saw our Karen for this story. She was clearly confused by the blue dress and began asking my mom where something was in the aisles. Obviously, my mother said she didn't work there, and this set Karen off. My father heard the conflict and approached them, but the grey button-up shirt made Karen think he was a manager. I wish I could explain more, but as I said, this was second-hand. At this point, Karen must have stepped on Doggo's tail, because as I was heading back to find my parents, I heard poor Doggo yelp loudly, which is out of character for him, and I took off running. I arrived to the scene with my mother trying to comfort Doggo, his tail slightly red from blood, and my mother tending to it, my father arguing with Karen, and an employee wearing a blue shirt, black pants, and an apron coming up. Employee is trying to figure out what is going on, and Karen is going on about how disrespectful my mother and the manager are being. The employee is trying to explain the whole concept of us being customers, but Karen wasn't listening. I took the employee aside and asked him to get the real manager and approached Karen. I should note, I run role-playing games and through that have learned how to improvise. Me. What's going on here? Karen looks to me. Who are you? Me. I'm the manager. What are you doing here? My father gave me a confused look and went to say something, but I stopped him. Karen looked me over, my cheesy t-shirt and all, and scoffed. You're not the manager, you're just some kid. I'm 29. Me. Okay, then what about my parents is telling you they work here? Karen stopped and looked at my parents, and you can see gears turning in her head. My father saw I had things under control, and he went to help my mother, who doesn't work well under stress. Me. Okay, now that you're listening, what happened to Doggo? Karen stuttered. I don't know. Me. That better be true. Doggo is a trained service dog and is worth probably more than what you make in a year. Me. That better be true. Doggo is a trained service dog and is worth probably more than what you make in a year. Karen. I need to. Me. No, you are staying right here till the manager gets here. Doggo is hurt and I want to know why. Karen must have been intimidated into staying, which is a surprise to me, which will be explained later. Eventually, the manager arrives. 10 minutes later, guess the situation wasn't urgent enough, along with a pair of police officers who must have been called by someone. Karen must have been intimidated into staying, which is a surprise to me, which will be explained later. Eventually, the manager arrives. 10 minutes later, guess the situation wasn't urgent enough, along with a pair of police officers who must have been called by someone. Karen tried to defend herself weakly, but all the breeze she had in her sails against my parents were gone. The manager came back and confirmed Karen stomped on Doggo's tail when Doggo got between my mom and Karen. He sat down in front of the two to stand his ground, but he wraps his tail to his side to keep it out of the way, meaning it looked like on camera Karen also kicked Doggo. I saw red, but let my parents take care of things. They pressed charges on Karen, and the manager paid for our groceries personally, telling us he apologizes and that he should have banned her earlier. When we got back to the van, I started crying. You see, something I neglected to say was I am not a confrontational person. Seeing Doggo hurt, my mother crying, and my dad about to deck Karen, I snapped and was actually scared of what I would do. If Karen didn't stand down, I was a bit afraid of what I might have done. When we got back to the van, I started crying. You see, something I neglected to say was, I am not a confrontational person. Seeing Doggo hurt, my mother crying and my dad about to deck Karen, I snapped and was actually scared of what I would do. If Karen didn't stand down, I was a bit afraid of what I might have done. Luckily, it didn't come to that. Mom is staying home with Doggo today, while myself and my dad do some running around. She is still shaken up, and we would rather not add more stress to her. Thanks for reading, and sorry, it's a bit messy. I just wanted to get this down. I needed to get this off my chest, and felt writing about it would help. Court is hopefully going to be after the whale watching trip, but I haven't heard anything about it. Update. Holy frig, this blew up. I can't get to everything now, but we cancelled everything tonight, and Doggo is on the emergency vet. We'll update when more info comes to light, and thanks for the reassurance. Important update 1. Doggo is physically going to be okay. The vet said the scrape, as he described it, is shallow and should heal. Unfortunately, he will be committed to the cone of bravery when not on duty until it heals to make sure he doesn't make it worse. Mentally, well, have no update on that, but he seemed to be normal around family. I have work tomorrow, so I'll ask Mom how everything goes when she takes him out for work. As for charges on Karen, interference of service animal, willful injury of a service animal, animal abuse, assault, destruction of property, disrupting the peace and more. She is facing upwards to 5 years in prison, minimum. Nothing official has been decided yet, however. Update 1, I would punch that Karen in the face. So this came up quite a bit. Honestly, the thought did cross my mind. However, my parents were right there. They taught me well, as cliché as that sounds. Even if I punched or got into a fight to defend them, they would have been extremely disappointed in me. Especially considering I didn't have the full story at the time. If it was just me and Doggo, perhaps I would have. But at this point, I am talking about a what-if scenario rather than what happened. You are a lot stronger than I am. Thanks, strangers. Honestly, reading your comments is making me feel better. As a shy person, I feel weak a lot of the time. Can't get into conversations, sit at home and play games. But as someone has pointed out, I do seem to collect myself in stressful situations. It is likely due to the first aid training I have experienced, performing under pressure, but I don't know. Either way, thank you for your kind comments. How could someone hurt a dog? I honestly have no reason. Doggo might have made a threatening gesture or something. As I said, I wasn't in the area of the initial engagement, and I didn't see the CCTV. Either way, she done goofed up. Final words. As I said, I am going on vacation, and the court is happening afterwards. I will do one final update when everything is said and done. Final court proceedings. Update. Okay, I promised an update, and here it is. I was at work, as it was my parents who pressed the charges, so all this information is secondhand. Karen was charged with animal cruelty, assault of a service animal, interfering with a service animal, and a bunch of others. We are getting $6,000 in damages, and Karen is getting 6 years in prison. I don't have much information on this one. Karen is married to a Chad who threatened my parents in the courtroom. He is also charged now, but I have no details on that. I really hope they didn't procreate. Finally, Doggo is still capable of performing his duties, however he is now skittish around people with high heels. Despite this, he performed his duties admirably despite the traumatic experience. He came out on the boat with us for whale watching. He got to say hello to a whale friend he met last year named Mocha, who allowed her calf to come right over to the boat we were on and try to tip us over. Either way, it was an amazing trip, and Doggo is still the same Doggo he was before, just skittish around high heels.